Now, this is one of those interviews where I already know I don't have enough time. So, just know that. David Wells, J.D. Mallory, both churchmen, unusual men that I've known for a long time. Starting with Dave, who is the General Superintendent of the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada, and J.D. Mallory, who is the lead pastor of Stone Church, which is in the epicenter of Toronto, bounded by Bay, Bloor, and Yonge. Yeah. Probably the best location for a church in Canada.
I believe it. In the world, maybe.
Maybe in the world. Yeah. Maybe in the world. Why not? Think big. But, David, tell us about the PanAm Games. A lot of our viewers have very little knowledge of the PanAm Games, what they mean. You have been involved not only with the PanAm Games, but also with the Olympics. Are you the senior chaplain? Are you the guy that kind of coordinates all the chaplains for it?
I am, Jim, and looking forward to it later this month in Toronto and, of course, the Golden Horseshoe region. I oversee the multifaith centers in the Athlete Village, and therefore overseeing all of the chaplains from the various faith groups, including the Christian chaplains. And I've enjoyed doing that and being involved in village life for about 11 major events now. And so you get an idea of the patterns and the opportunities and the challenges of working alongside of athletes, team officials, the organizers. But hey, what a privilege. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, you're the head of a denomination in Canada, and every denomination has its own sort of orthodoxy, its own due process, its own do's and don'ts, cultural standards, and that's just the way it is. Have you ever had any static from your denomination in terms of coordinating multi-faith activities?
Really, honestly, my gang surrounding me has been more than affirming all the way along. Near the front end, some people wondered when I had the current roles that I did back in the 90s, for instance, well, Wells, what's that got to do with your job description? What are you doing over there? Yeah. But, the proof's in the pudding as you get involved, as you have opportunity the way I've had. Our folks are cheering me on because they know that to follow Jesus is to follow him to all the tables of our culture. It's not just to hang out in an ivory tower and pretend to be this religious guy doing administrative stuff. It's my little motto is you can lead from the office or you can lead from the streets, and I prefer to lead from the streets.
You're leading from the streets. Yeah. Well, talk about the streets, JD. You've got a great kind of vision for how you as a local church in downtown Toronto can engage not only with Dave, but also with the PanAm Games. Tell us about your idea.
Well, we want to attack this city for Jesus.
Excuse me, attack?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's somewhat aggressive.
Well, we can be passive and we can see the world go by, or we can really be aggressive and engage the culture right where we're at. Our church we are an urban church. We have the world in Toronto, and the PanAm Games are coming to Toronto. And what better way to help our people to use that as a tool to get us involved in the city.
So what are you going to do?
Well, we're opening our church. We're hosting an opening games ceremony at our church. We're having a community fair. We don't have property. We don't have a parking lot.
You're downtown Toronto, so yeah.
We have a parking garage.
Yeah.
But we're bringing bounce houses and things into the gymnasium, into the auditorium. We're going to be showing the opening ceremonies on big screen TVs. We're inviting the community to come in, and what we're doing is we're using the PanAm Games as a tool to tell our people, listen, people are coming to our city. I believe this is the largest sporting event in Canadian history.
That's correct.
It's happening, and so
really, now just stop it. Bigger than the Olympics in Vancouver?
Yeah, as far as number of athletes, participants, the PanAms is the third largest multi-sport event that occurs in the world on the regular cycle of sporting events. It's the third largest.
Third largest. World Cup would be number one?
Well, no. In fact, as far as participants, athletes, and so on, Summer Olympics and the Asian Games, and then the PanAm Games.
Oh, wow. Getting back to you, I interrupted you, but...
No, as Ontario is spending over $2.5 billion to create venues and infrastructure for these games, and so we'd be foolish as a church if we don't put some seed in the ground as well. And we want to just open our doors, not just for the games, but to let our culture know, let our city know, our core know that we're here. And we want to use what's happening with the PanAm Games to say, hey, we love Toronto, we love Canada, we're rooting for our teams, we're rooting for our athletes. But there's a bigger game that's there at play as well, and we want to be engaged in the game that's eternal.
Now, speaking about the bigger game, Dave, that's why you're engaged in this. You and I worked together years ago in Vancouver, and I know you're hard on this. And you've had so much experience, both with the Olympics and other events over the years. Do athletes come with a sense of a spiritual need? Is there opportunity to speak into a young person's life about, the meaning of life and the challenges of the gospel?
So within the village, dealing with the actual athletes, there's kind of 2 or 3 main ways that the athletes connect with us. One is a good number of them, especially related to PanAm countries, just are practicing their faith. They're living their faith. And so now the village is their home for that period of time, and they want to practice their faith. They come in, we get to know them, or some of our chaplains know the athletes already, as I know some athletes already. They'll be there. They'll want to pray, study. But there's others that they're in different points in their life, and it's interesting, some of the conversations you have that got nothing to do with the games. They're just human beings living life with normal needs. They got relational issues going on. What's next for a lot of them, and so you get this great opportunity to interact about that. And then occasionally, you just deal with crisis moments like we did in Vancouver with the tragic death of the Georgian luger. And the organizers are so grateful that there's teams of people, chaplains that are there to be part of responding. So you never know from games to games quite what the flow and will be, but in the midst of it, there's athletes, teams officials, others that are just going to be practicing.
Dave, the whole world watched in horror when that Georgian luger died. I mean, that was a horrible thing to watch. You kicked into gear. How did the chaplaincy ministry serve that situation?
We were immediately called into action by the organizers when the vice president saw me, even before it was public that he'd passed away. And immediately I had people in the chaplaincy team, both up in Whistler and in Vancouver, for one thing, that spoke the language. The crossover language for the folks, of course, was Russian. So within 2 hours, a chaplain was talking to his coach and helping him process what he was going to do and the calls he had to make and so on and so forth. And we immediately kicked into gear that way, and then we moved on to support all the athletes, the whole village, setting up a remembrance room, remembrance books, and we had some pretty sobering but amazingly spiritual times over those next 2 weeks, caring for the athletes and others.
JD, this is your first crack at this.
Yeah.
Are you nervous about it? Is there anything about it that maybe scares you a bit?
Well, there's always a challenge. I don't think if it wasn't challenging, I wouldn't want to be involved in it.
There you go.
And
That's your nature,
so
right?
I want the challenge, and I want our church to embrace the challenge. I want Christians in our city to embrace this challenge. We have many of these athletes have trained a lifetime for 6 seconds in a sprint. And it's gone in an instant, and we have something where we can engage that lasts forever. We have an opportunity. We have people from our church that are engaged as games pastors. They go to some of the places, just water stations, and they have little vests that just say games pastor. Really? And so if someone needs prayer, and then we have other churches within our community, we've connected with More Than Gold, which is a ministry that is trying to just create opportunities for Christians to engage fans, parents and families of athletes to open up their homes, to allow them to come in. So there's a lot of different things that we can do that are going to last longer than 6 seconds. And ultimately, when we get our people in this harvest mode, the games, the PanAm Games are going to come to an end. The Para Games are going to come to an end. But our mission is not going to come to an end.
Games pastor, that's a concept. Have you encountered that one before, David?
Yeah, that's in essence a chaplaincy that occurs outside of the venues. So you have the official venues where you need full security clearance, and that's the chaplains that I'm overseeing within the organizational structure. But then through the More Than Gold network, Christian pastors are involved outside of the venues, just available to care, available to meet people's needs, and it's a great initiative.
And once the games are over, and you mentioned that, JD, once the games are over, both the PanAm and the Parapan, Is there any need for some kind of a follow through or follow up, or do you go from intense activity, Dave, to just back to life as normal? How does that work?
Well, life as normal is intense activity.
Of course, very, very true. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
You know what I've learned, because for me, this goes all the way back, Commonwealth Games 1978,
Yeah.
the Olympics in Calgary 88. God has a wonderful way of building. He has a wonderful way of taking what's deposited, what we're pouring in through our various ways this coming month. And you know what? That will be foundational for what's showing up in our lives 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. It will show up relationally. It will show up in shaping who we are. It will show up in the Church of Jesus within Canada and around the world. So everything's a building block to something even better in the kingdom.
Well, both of you are men with big vision and also a big worldview. It seems to me that one of the benefits of this is just your leadership by example. I'm sure there are a lot of churches looking at you, JD, and also at you, David, and saying, gee whiz, I wish I could be like those guys. I mean, often a church can become kind of sheltered, closed in on itself, right?
Yeah.
And doesn't have the sense that it can impact the world.
Yeah.
What do you think the impact will be for Stone?
Well, I want them to see there's never been a problem with the harvest. The harvest is always plentiful. We get to see it a little bit more. The attention is more with the PanAm Games. We just need to keep that front and center of our lives all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's a great thing to know that, you know, men like David Wells and J.D. Mallory are engaging with the PanAm Games. And I know a lot of you are going to be going to the venues, you're going to be watching the events. And if you have any predisposition at all to spiritual interest, pray for these guys. And for any and all Christian leaders who are going the second mile to bring hope and help and comfort and healing, not only the participants, but with some of those pastors at those watering stations. I'm sure a lot of people not involved in the games are going to be finding their way to a pastor.
Yeah.
You may be taking a tiger by the tail here, JD.
I hope so.
You're both inspirational, and thanks for coming by.